You know what movie I really like? Grease. I think Grease is a really great movie. It holds up incredibly well. The themes it's talking about, the songs, it's all iconic and fun. But you know what I've been thinking about every time I've went back to rewatch Grease, the movie from the 70s? How did those ladies get their pink lady jackets? I've always wondered that. Since I was a small boy watching Grease for the first time, how did the pink ladies get their rise? Well, finally, my prayers are answered because Paramount Plus was like, we can get into the streaming race too, and we're going to do so by doing a Grease prequel. Because doing sequels or prequels to Grease has worked out so good every time they've done it. Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies. It's here. I have so many thoughts on this show. First off, I talk a lot about the problem with streaming shows and everything going on here. When we have so many of these universes trying to make themselves into universes and everything's an IP that we just have to make a new story based off of, they all just feel so familiar and generic and don't really get anything worth talking about. Grease definitely had that vibe. When you are just like, we're going to make a Grease prequel, my initial reaction is, why? Don't get me wrong, I am fine. I don't think there's a single piece of content or creative expression that shouldn't be changed in any capacity. Touch whatever you want, make whatever you want, do it. But you just have to wonder, like, who has something to say about Grease? Turns out there's a lot to say about Grease because here's the thing. I want to make this abundantly clear to anybody listening that might be on the fence about this show. This is the show of the year. I love every single second of Grease Rise of the Pink Ladies. I cannot explain to you why I love every second of this. It works on every conceivable level. The exact specific tone it is going for is so great. It is so fun. I am smiling and giggling. I am having audible reactions every time a character does something in this show. It is so rare for that to happen to me. I like when it happens, even if it's a show I don't really love. But I do love this one. I'm just so excited when a show can actually have me go, what is happening? I love this. What's going on? Every character is awesome. That is what Rise of the Pink Ladies is to me. This is the story of how the Pink Lady organization of Rydell High was formed. I know what you're thinking. We're going to be seeing the origin of, was it Rizzo and Frenchie in them? No, we're seeing the origin of Frenchie's older sister creating the organization of the Pink Ladies. That's what this is. That is what we're doing. From the first episode, they tell you, we're eventually going to be leading up to, we're getting the whole gang in here. Danny's going to show up, Kanicki's going to show up, everyone's going to show up. That's what we're doing. And I'm here for it. I am here for it because this show rocks. What is so good about this? It's not doing anything new, but the way it's approaching itself is so much more interesting than the other shows that are attempting this. It is the parts about Glee that are really good and the parts about Riverdale that are really good. If you combine those into like a post-war high school drama, that's what this is because it's set in the 50s. We remind you every single second we are set in the 50s. It's insane. There is literally like sugar-coated racism in every single scene with the characters of color. It is so bizarre how it's doing that while still maintaining a show being made in the 2020s. It's like we are having those moments so we can have our gay characters, our characters of color, like the diversity we see and explore all the time in modern stories and still have it feel like it's naturally taking place in the 50s. Like there's one character who is of Asian descent who gets blamed for Pearl Harbor all the time in the show. Like she says, like, you know how many times I'm just walking down the street and somebody like accuses me of Pearl Harbor? I'm like, whoa, why are we doing that? I mean, I get why we're doing that, but I didn't think the Grease prequel would have the balls to say that. But it does. And it's so well. And it's also about like a woman gaining power in a society run by men. We have to put the kibosh on that shit because women shouldn't be allowed having power. Pretty much the majority of this season is like an election happening at Rydell High between scorned lovers. You have Buddy, who is just like the perfect Aryan boy. Look at me, I'm like a handsome jock type. And then you have Jane, a little more smart, a little more nerdy. Well, they have a falling out, and when it looks like a clear-cut race that Buddy's gonna be the president, well, Jane's like, no, I'm gonna be like the outside source and talk to like the other people that aren't like the cis white guy that's just like the proper person. Like, look at me, I'm the domestic housewife, or look at me, I'm the perfect modern man. I'm gonna talk to like the other people, and that gains her support. And while this show is both just like, we are talking about issues that women face in the 50s, and I don't want to spoil every single thing that happens in the show, but you just, from the get-go, you see this woman is trying hard and she is succeeding, but the elite white guy is just pushing her down at every moment. And the lesson that Buddy learns throughout this entire show is that, oh shit, I don't want to be the previous generation. Because that is the other thing about this show that is a Grease prequel. It is so anti-authority, it is fucking gnarly. I am so obsessed with how much it hates authority. Forget about anything your teachers or principals are saying. Screw your parents, they don't understand this generation. It is so hard to authentically do that when you're just like, oh, Dad, you don't get it, you know? It does it so naturalistically in here. And it's just like, these parents are so old, they don't get our music. Like, they're not going to let us rebel or have any fun. They don't understand. They think society's one thing. It's not. It's such a 2020 story being told in the 50s. This Grease prequel is just saying, fuck authority, fuck the police, fuck everybody, man. If you're not our generation, man, if you're not a teenager or a younger, man, you don't get shit, man. If you were born before the war, get out of here. You don't get shit. You're dumb. You don't understand society, like what we can evolve into. It's like, what? This Grease prequel is saying that. And it just leaves me so excited. Like, I'm just like, wow, they're taking a moment to talk down about the, like, modern man with, like, the picket white fence and just talking shit about him. We want to rock and roll, Dad. We want to kiss all the time. I'm like, you go, do it. And they do sometimes. And it's insane. And I love it. And on top of all of that, this is a freaking musical. I love musicals. I didn't like Glee because it's like, what if we just cover this song? And where you think it's like, oh, are they going to play like remixes of classic Grease songs? They do it once, and then we move on. There are at least 2 new songs in each episode that fit so well into the theme, and they go into the fantastical. So when we are going into the musical number, we're leaving reality. We are going to new sets, we are exploring new themes, we are changing outfits, we are changing everything, and it looks magical and beautiful, and it stays true to the exact narrative we are telling. It is flowing so effortlessly. The Grease prequel is flowing so effortlessly with its music, and the songs are bops. Now, I can't sit here and name them all for you, but there are specific ones that I do really like. Olivia has a great song in like one of the early episodes where she's like, yeah, I know I'm beautiful and men just keep looking at me. I get it, but I'm in control, so shut up. I love that. And then there's just I can't believe how much I like this show, because it shouldn't work, you know? It should feel like a parody of itself, but it actually has so much more to say than it should. And that's really impressive and very interesting. And it looks expensive. Like, the sets are huge. The costuming is huge. Like, it looks like we're in the 50s. The camera work is very modern, of course, but that's just the technology and the techniques we're using. But it looks like that. And I do think if this show is given the opportunity to grow, some of these songs could become as iconic as the songs from Grease. It's going to be hard to do that because that's like a really old musical from the 70s. There's been decades with that world, right? But now, if we tried and let this grow, there could be some hits in there that you get like regular people playing all the time. And I love that. And look, this cast is adorable and sweet, and I love them. And the storylines they go on are crazy. We talked a little bit about like the presidential race at the school and all that stuff. That is like one of the main plots for Jane's character. She is our lead. She has a couple other plots where it's like, my mother is Puerto Rican, but we say she's Italian because we don't want people to make fun of her ethnicity. And you're like, okay. And then she meets like a cute boy on top of another cute boy. So she's in like a weird love triangle with like the rebel and with like the jock. And it's like, yes. And you love it. And she just like wins in the end. It's so cool. And it's all like, this is such a great use of like platonic romance, if that makes sense, where it's like you can have like, you can be in love with your friends for being your friends. You don't have to be like romantically involved to love them in such like a strong way. And it talks about that a lot because you see the Pink Ladies, they're all friends and they all love each other, and like they choose womanhood and sisterhood over like the men in a lot of the stuff. And it's so impressive. And Jane is a compelling lead. The rest of the Pink Ladies are really insane. You have Nancy, who is really into fashion. She is designing a lot of different outfits that are over the top and dramatic and look crazy. Her parents run the malt shop, and she also like creates the mascot costume, and she becomes the mascot for a bit. And then you think she doesn't like boys, but then she starts to like boys, and she's doing all this other stuff. You're like, okay, that's a lot. And then you have Cynthia, who is just like the tomboy, kind of like the rebel one, wants to be, oh god, why can't I remember the name of like the dudes? Are they the T-Birds? Is that their names? You know, the greaser guys, you know. She wants to be one of them. Eventually she gets like into some trouble with the other Pink Ladies. She has to join the drama club where she awakens something in herself about her sexuality. And it's like, yes, this both feels like a story told in 2023 and something that you could definitely see happening in the 50s. That's really cool. And then we have Olivia, whose main story is she's a hot girl who maybe made out with one of the teachers one time, and now everybody thinks she's a slut. But then maybe the teacher does love her, and then there's like a scene where like they set off a bunch of fireworks, and they think they're gonna die because it could be a bomb dropping, and they like rekindle the romance even though he's engaged, and you're like, what are we doing? Why do I like this so much? I hate this exact premise in other shows. Why am I liking it in this one? Is it because every character is having fun, and we're not taking this serious? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I just like Grease. You know, I like guys driving one car, just screaming at the top of their lungs for no reason. There is an episode where the T-Birds go to a casino and lose all their money, and they have like a bro moment where they have to bro out and like come together and like understand like they're crying, but like I must have ate some onions earlier. You're like, yes, that's so silly and dumb. These scripts are so good and we're filming it so beautifully. It's such a good show, and it has no right to be this good. And I hate to say that, because when you hear somebody say, like, hey, have you watched that Grease prequel? You know, how did the Pink Ladies start? And no, it's none of the Pink Ladies you know from the Grease movie. It's like the one's sister. That does not sound appealing. But this show is phenomenal on every level. Great music for a musical, great plots for a musical, great costuming for a musical. It is so political and ahead of itself in the times it's taking place in and what it's saying about today's society. Screw authority. Who cares? Your principal sucks. Jackie Hoffman's the principal in this, and I love every second she's on screen. She even gets to sing sometimes, and that's really cool. And she's beautiful and fun, and I'm having a great time, and everybody's awesome. It's just really sweet. We're loving it. The dudes are insane. The popular girl learns a lesson. We're going to do Shakespeare, but we have to shake it up a little bit. You know, the guys are willing to change. It's all about like the younger generation willing to accept the faults of the older one and changing so they are not their parents. They are not the authority. It's awesome. All through the lens of rock and roll forming. It's like, yes, okay. You sold me on this. I was hooked since episode 1. I couldn't stop watching. It's so bloody good, and it looks so good. And me just talking about it, I'm so passionate and interested in what it is saying. It's not doing the show justice. It is just perfect on every conceivable level. It is the show of the year for me. I'm not saying it's my favorite show or like the best show, but it's the one where I'm like, yes, if we are going to do something with these IPs that have to become universes and franchises now, this is what I want to see. Don't take it seriously. Try something new. Go balls deep in this insanity and screw everybody, man. Like, don't hold back. Talk about everybody sucking. If you're not going to talk about anything, don't talk about anything. But if you're going to go for it, make everybody an asshole. And they do. Except the kids. They got their problems. They deal with it like mature people. But it's the older generation that sucks. Screw them. Screw authority. Rebel kids. None of this matters. Yes. I'm in. Give me more seasons. I'm here for all of it. I think it's great. This is it, man. This is what I've been waiting for. It's so good, and everybody is so awesome in it. Great stuff. Oh. So Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies, I am going to give a 9 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, Grease is the word. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. Seriously, though, this is worth watching.